on chapter 6, which is word identification. And so Sophia is going to give us our objectives.
All right. So the objectives from the chapter were to define word identification. It also talked about how characterize various phases of development in children's ability to identify words. You also had to compare traditional and contemporary approaches for teaching phonics, explain strategies for teaching phonics, and then identify strategies that teach rapid recognition of words, and then lastly, organize and balance word identification instruction through multiple approaches.
Alright, and then this is a quick overview of the chapter. The main purpose or opening of the chapter was defining word identification, which can be defined as putting a name or label on words that are encountered in print by the students. They can also be referred to as sight word recognition or sight vocabulary. And then there are different phases in the child's ability to identify words. It's typically pre-alphabetic, partial alphabetic, full alphabetic, and then finally consolidated alphabetic. Pre-alphabetic is before the development of alphabetic knowledge. Partial is when the child has some knowledge about letters, and then they can start to detect sound and letter relationships. And then full alphabetic is when readers identify words by matching all the letters to all the sounds. And then finally, in consolidated alphabetic, they're able to segment words into onset and rhyme. And then the chapter also includes different strategies for teaching phonics and for teaching context.
So the strategies for teaching phonics and context that Brooke was just talking about. Making words falls under consonant-based strategies. Word walls are analogic-based strategies, and closed passages are strategies for teaching context.
Okay, for my transliteracy connection for making words, the first one I have is under the Reading Rockets website. It provides different activities that teachers can print out that use the making word strategy. It also includes different strategies for differentiating instruction in the classroom. And then it also gives an example of a student using the strategies. So it not only gives the teacher the resources, but it also shows an example of a teacher using it in the classroom. And then another one that I saw was a word game for the students. It's called Construct a Word Game. It's typically used for kindergarten through second grade. They begin by choosing a rhyme that they will then base the rest of their words on. The game challenges the students to create as many words as possible using their one rhyme, and then they can start all over and choose a different rhyme and continue on from there.
So for word walls, technology can be used to create a template. One of the ways you can do that is through Microsoft Word. So if you go into Microsoft and create a table, you can create a table with as many columns and rows as you want to, and you can just create a template based off of that. There's an app called WordWall, which is quoted being a challenging and fun word association braid game for students in order to practice word association with the words that are in the app. And then wordwall.net is a website that you can use in order to create a word wall online, and then you can also print it out.
Okay, so for closed passages, I found two websites that you could use where you insert a text or a passage, and then you can remove a certain amount of words from it. And then I included pictures as well. And the bottom example or website, you can also be selective and not just base it off the number of words you want to get rid of, but like, I want to get rid of this word specifically or this word.
Okay, so making words was the strategy that I researched. It refers to substituting consonants at the beginning of a rhyme, so essentially the onset. And so a common way to implicate making words is by using a flipbook. And there's a picture on the corner that just has a couple examples. The flipbook can be based off of one or multiple rhymes. Typically the smaller ones only use one. And it has different consonants and consonant blends on one side that just change in accordance with the rhyme that's on the other side. And they're typically in different colors to help differentiate. And then one instructional example that I came across in the book and through my research was the the teacher takes different squares and they can write the onset on one, which is either a consonant or a consonant, and then they can put the rhyme on the other and put magnets on the back of them and like put them on a magnetic board, and the students can come up and switch the either the onset or the rhyme to continue making words based off of the original. I also found this little picture online, which I thought was cool, that they used like a paint strip that you like find at like Lowe's or something, and they put just a little piece of paper and with like little slits in it to move it up and down to create 6 different words off of just changing the consonant at the beginning. And then research shows that using different making word strategies for students that are at risk in reading will greatly improve their word identification and fluency. It also proved that using color-coded onsets and rhymes increased improvement. It gave the students a visual where they could see, well, the red one is at the beginning and the blue one is at the end, and if I change the red one, I can then make a different word just by changing the letter. And so then another article was based off of the use of a word builder kit. It was a kit that helped teachers create onset and rhyme activities. The activities made either the onset or the rhyme interchangeable for the students to make more words based off the original structure. And then here are a couple examples. There are different like worksheets and things that you can find online, and different like word families on the end that just the onset is changing. And then there's also dice that were available that you could order or find in a classroom where the onset would be green and the rhyme would be yellow.
For word walls, research shows that word walls can be dynamic, interactive, and can be a student-led tool that you can really use in your classroom to engage the students. If it's implemented correctly, word walls can be created by the students and the teachers working together and can have great effect supplementing a learning segment. To use this strategy, teachers should plan ahead of time, so this isn't really something that you can just do on the fly. You actually have to have planning so that you can really implement it well. They should plan out how the word wall will be laid out using a template, then decide where it will go in the classroom, whether you want it on the back wall or on the side wall or in the front. And then the final step is to have students help construct the word wall. Like I said, just bringing them into the process and helping them create something that is going to be up on the wall in the classroom. The purpose of them is to get students familiar with past vocabulary that they've already learned and new vocabulary that's coming up in the next learning segment. They're also used to help students understand words and the connection between words. They can be basic for younger students, and they can also be detailed for older students. So you can have one for kindergarten that's based off of letters, or you can have another one for high school that's science terms or algebra terms, and they can be used for, as I said, multiple subjects. So here are a few examples. So as I was saying, there's an example of physical properties, and then here is a template that you could use with the different letters. And then I saw examples of you put A words under A and B words under B all the way down to Z. And then there's another example with general terms, but then more words that are better characterizations and describing words than big, cute, fun, like more in detail words. For the students to be able to go and choose one of those.
Alright, so before I explain the research for my part of this chapter, I just want to explain a little bit more about what a closed passage is. So a closed passage is a strategy in which words or letters are omitted from the text and students are required to fill in the blanks using the information from the passage. So that would explain why I found websites where you're putting in a text and it's getting rid of words, it's omitting words, so the students can go back in and write them in. So there are 3 types discussed in our textbook. The first one is selective word deletion. So selective word deletion is when you omit or you leave out important nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. So the focus is on using meaningful information from the passage. This would be great if you are creating a closed passage for a vocabulary unit. The next one is systematic word deletion. This is when every nth word is omitted. So it could be every 5th word, it could be every 10th word. It's omitted from the passage and students are required to go back in and fill that in. And the last one is partial word deletion. This is when every nth word or selected word is partially deleted. So the whole word isn't deleted. So for example, initial consonants are given and then other letters are deleted. Or you can get rid of like vowels in a word. So instead of writing like dog, you have D and then blank G. Okay, so the research. I found a lot of different studies on closed passages, and it had proven a lot of different things about it. So research has proven that closed passages can be used for more than assessments, but also everyday instruction. Because generally, teachers would use them for assessments, but it says that one study had found a huge improvement in ESL learners' vocabulary after completing a few closed passage assignments. So this could be something great to implement in your class if you're using it as an assignment and not just as an assessment. Another study found that a quick 10-minute closed comprehension test can be designed to match a more time-consuming 30-minute question-answering comprehension test in several important areas. So this is important to note that this is talking about a selective word deletion. You are choosing the words that you want your students to write in, or choosing the words that you want them to omit. All right, and then the purpose of closed passages. You can have different types of closed passages, so you'll have different purposes for having a closed passage. So first it could be to determine what the students already know. This is your diagnostic assessment. Maybe you want to see how much the student's reading level, like where are they at? Or it could be used to assess what students have learned. This could be a formal or summative assessment, depending on what you think fits best for your lesson. And then it could also be to give students extra practice or more help. So like I said earlier in the research that's been shown, ESL learners really do benefit from having closed passages as extra practice on their vocabulary. When they're able to see a sentence and then just one word being omitted from it, it really does help them out when they're able to see context. And then depending on the teacher, closed passages can be used to test reading comprehension or vocabulary, like I stated before. So depending on what I said, what teachers, want to use the assessment, what the closed passage is for, it can be used for vocabulary or reading comprehension. All right, so just to give you an idea, because I was a little bit confused at how the scoring might work for reading comprehension, this is what one teacher had done. She had omitted about 25 words from the passage, so that way when she multiplied the correct number of replacements put in by the student by 4, it would tell you the percentage. So if the student received a 61% or more correct replacements, that meant that the passage was at an independent reading level for them. But if they received a 40 to 60% correct replacement, that means that it was instructional reading level and is where they should be trying to improve at that level. And then for less than 39% correct replacements, that was the frustration reading level, and that maybe you should choose an easier passage or omit less words. And then I put in a couple examples or models of closed passages. So this first example is a selective word deletion. So I'm focusing on the vocabulary in itself, or the adverbs, nouns, verbs, adjectives. That's what I'm taking out of it. So one of the best ways to escape, you could take out that word. The heat of the summer months is to head down to the beach. So you could have that as an example. And then I also included another example. This is a systematic word deletion. So I got rid of every 6th word. And one of the best ways, escape. 2, you want to see if your students are able to understand what's going on in the passage when words are omitted. And then the frequency of the word deletion depends on the student's reading level. So if you think about it, the more words that you take out, the harder it is for that student to understand. So depending on how much your student might struggle, they might need a passage where you take out less words or just an easier reading level in general. And then for the conclusion. So today we reviewed word identification, and we took a closer look at how to incorporate making words, word walls, and closed passage strategies into the class. And we hope that you will consider using these strategies because they really do benefit your class and they will help differentiate your lesson. And if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer about what we focused on. So if you have any questions.
And then those are our references, the research that we included in the presentation. Thank you.
All right, so now we'll be heading into our rotation. Okay, so